Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Sarvadevaya Namaha. Om Jai Shri Ram. Suswagatam. Thank you all for liking my last video. Today, moving on to the last part of chapter 3. A few years later, I received a great blessing from Rajkumari. Usha and I were sitting in the garden one day, watching Mata play with a family of rabbits that often came out of their hideaway to greet her. I was looking at Mata, thinking how beautiful she was now that she was approaching womanhood. She had always been a pretty child, with a clear complexion and eyes that sparkled with life. But her form was changing, and she was becoming strikingly beautiful. As she played with the animals, her long, thick hair, dark as a moonless sky, cascaded to her waist and flowed in wavelets over her arms and over the body of a small rabbit she now held close to her chest. Her body was slender and graceful, so light that she barely seemed to touch the earth when she walked. Her large almond-shaped eyes matched the color of her hair and shone with joy. As she had progressed from childhood to womanhood, her eyes had grown deeper, like pools that had no bottom, and they reflected not only the joy that was her being, but also a knowledge, a wisdom, and a deep calm that affected us all. When she looked at you, you knew that she was seeing more than your outer form. She was gazing deep into the inner recesses of your being, so that she could elevate any worry or cause for pain. This was her manner. Her complexion was a few shades lighter than mine and emitted a soft golden hue. Her face, though slender, had a fullness to it and bore no imperfections, no marks. I could not imagine a more beautiful person. As I was admiring her beauty, Mata suddenly laid the rabbit on the ground and came over to me, seated herself beside me, and said in a quiet tone, "Meenakshi, you shouldn't feel that your father did not love you. He loved you a great deal. Love is expressed not only by words but also by actions." Caught completely off guard, I was taken aback by her words and didn't know how to respond. "Don't you remember when he would sit by your bed at night and watch until you fell asleep? That was the sign of his love. And when he would bring you along at night to receive Pitaji's blessings before going to bed, that was also a sign of his love." She spoke as if she had been there with me, witnessing the small acts of caring, of which I had taken no note. I couldn't stop the tears from coming to my eyes. As she spoke, images came before me, memories that I had long suppressed. I struggled to keep my composure and my tears in check, feeling as if I were the child and she the adult. But he never told me that he loved me, I thought. She replied to my thought. "That doesn't mean he didn't love you." With her enduring smile, she added, "Vasundhara Ma does not speak her love for us, and yet she loves us, all of us, every creature and plant, and even the stones, for they are part of her too. The earth loves us. My voice shook as I watched her hands caringly caress the ground beneath us. She nodded. Before I was born here, after I heard Pitaji and Ma calling for me to take birth, Vasundhara Ma appeared before me and said that she would take me to them. She said, "They will love you just as I do." That is how I know her love for us, and I will be grateful to her for guiding me here. Her expression had softened and displayed great tenderness. She spoke these words. Then, turning to me, she placed her delicate hand on my arm and said, "And I love you, Meenakshi." After speaking those precious words, she caught sight of the rabbits again and scampered off. I was deeply touched by her expression of love. Never before had I heard those words. I love you. Mata stirred something deep within me that day. Usha saw my distracted state and said quietly, "Meenakshi, I will look after Mata. You can go spend some time alone." I thanked her and retreated to my room, where the tears could flow freely. I allowed myself to be the child again and cry for the father I had lost and perhaps never really appreciated. My tears were also an expression of gratitude for Mata, for the love she had expressed. All the memories of tender moments with my father returned to me. For the first time, I felt his love. Some time later that day, I made my way to Aditi, who was very ill and in her last days. I told her what had happened. She was in a much weakened state, but she managed to smile and whispered, "Of course your father loved you. You were everything to him, and whatever he did, however stern he seemed, it was his way of protecting you, Meenakshi." She was quiet for a few minutes. "I believe he gave his life so you could advance in this household. Look, what blessings have come upon you now. Your father's devotion and loyalty played a large role, Meenakshi. Never doubt that. His sacrifice enabled you to be in the position you now are in. His sacrifice and Janak Baba's love for him." I looked at her questioningly. She nodded. "So that is why Janak Baba saved me that day in the river?" I murmured. "His love for my father." "That was Baba's love for you, Meenakshi." "For me?" I exclaimed in disbelief. Aditi sighed and gathered her strength. "Have you not noticed his love for all of us? The care Janak Baba takes for everyone in the household. Despite all his responsibilities, he comes often to check on me, to see whether there is anything I need, to ask what he can do to make me more comfortable. And I am just a servant. It is beyond me to understand such love. And Rajkumari Sita has that same quality." I nodded, overcome by the emotions that were gushing up. When I could speak again, I asked, "But Aditi, how could Mata have known this pain that was long buried in my heart?" "There are many things about Mata that we will never understand. But one thing is for certain, she has brought joy to this household and to all of Mithila. such as we never had before. She exudes the love that Janak Baba has, but does not display so openly. Sometimes I think Mata is love herself. Aditi's voice had grown very faint, and feeling that I had tired her, I started to take my leave. But then I turned and took her hand. You have meant a lot to me, Aditi, all these years. She smiled. When she saw the tears gathering, she said, Do not cry for me, Meenakshi. A new chapter has begun for you, and I must continue with my journey. I knew that this would be our last conversation, so I stayed by her side. But with her eyes, she indicated it was time for me to leave. And so, internally saying my last goodbye, I let go of her hand and of another part of my past. From that day, I was healed of the pain of feeling myself an unloved child. Some years after this episode, I was to discover that I was not the only one servant healed of an inner pain. Many, many in the household, and I dare say our kingdom, experienced healing of one sort or another from our dear beloved Mata. Thank you. Please listen and like this video. If you like this video, do not forget to share it. Thank you. Jai Shri Ram. Shri